Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking, and welcome to a different kind of video. I know this is in no way related to video games, but it's something I'm passionate about, so I wanted to make a little video addressing it. I know I'm like a week late, but on Twitter, a script for the CW's live-action Powerpuff Girls show was leaked. Now, the authenticity of this leak is unknown, but the fact that it was taken down for copyright, and that it has been announced that the original pilot was scrapped and being rewritten, lends credence to this being legitimate. The CW has developed a reputation for creating nothing but garbage television, which I don't 100% agree with. The first few seasons of Arrow and The Flash were really good. In fact, the first season of The Flash is my favorite season of any television show I've ever seen. The problem with later seasons is that the writers have less time, so ideas end up being rushed or underdeveloped, leading the show to completely fall apart. With that being the case, there is no excuse for just how unforgivably bad this script was. Now, I'm not a Powerpuff Girls fan by any stretch. In fact, I had seen nothing related to them until I watched the first episode of the original for comparison. But even I was offended with how these writers completely butchered these beloved characters. But I'm not here to talk about how it's bad from a reboot perspective, or how it's bad from a CW corporate woke bullshit perspective. It is awful in both respects, but I'm here to talk about how it's bad from a fundamental writing perspective. The first immediate problem is how much they jump around in the timeline in just the first few pages. It starts in 2003 with the girls fighting some monster, flashes back to 1996 when the girls were created, goes back to 2003 without specifying when that happens, jumps ahead 10 years to 2013 for some lovely character assassination, then jumps ahead again to 2021 where the rest of the story takes place. It's such a choppy and disorganized way to tell the origins of these characters that it immediately takes you out of the story and distances you from these characters because all of the gaps they created in their timeline. The next and biggest problem is the unbelievable, stereotypical, and downright insulting treatment of these characters. Was anyone asking for a Powerpuff Girls show where Bubbles was an alcoholic animal abuser with a daddy kink, Blossom was a guilt-ridden trauma victim, and Buttercup is a, and I wish I was exaggerating, cheating lesbian whore? I just boiled down their entire characters in one sentence, and that's how they act the whole time. They're completely unlikable, unrealistic, and insulting. Not to mention, they turned the professor into one of those Hollywood parents that extorts their kids for money, and the most iconic villain, Mojo Jojo, into two boring and uninspired characters, Mojo and his son Jojo, just for the sake of a political message with absolutely no subtlety. Basically what happens is that the Powerpuff Girls go to stop a monster when Mojo interferes, and no joke, due to Bubbles being hungover and Buttercup being too busy girl-bossing some protesters, Blossom accidentally kills Mojo. The mayor then bans the Powerpuff Girls from protecting the city ever again, which somehow stops all monsters and villains from ever attacking. The girls all go their separate ways until the professor calls them back, believing there to be an evil plan on the horizon. We eventually learn that a 10-year-old girl is conspiring with the new mayor, Jojo, to ruin the professor and the Powerpuff Girls in an effort to get re-elected. This is where the ridiculous attempt at a clever political message comes in. See, in this scene, Jojo can't choose between a red and blue tie. Do you get it? Red, blue, and in case you were so fucking dense that you didn't get it, they made it even more obvious by naming the worms infecting people's brains to get them to do whatever they wanted: Karen, Jared, Eric, Melania, Donald, Ted, and Rudy Giuliani. Do you get it? In the end, the plan is foiled, the 10-year-old somehow survives being electrocuted and thrown 20 feet into a brick wall, and Blossom somehow becomes attracted to the man who just earlier that day tried to kill her father just for an election and is a physical manifestation of her childhood trauma. And that's the huge issue here. The writers have no fucking clue what they're doing when it comes to writing a character with mental illness. Now, I'm not claiming to be an expert on the matter, but Blossom is traumatized by her failure to save Mojo, which is fair enough. But someone traumatized by an event in their childhood would not be told by any licensed therapist to envision their inner child when they need to calm down. What's worse is that Buttercup actually uses mental illness as an insult despite having a sister with mental illness. Oh, and it's made clear that Blossom has a loving boyfriend already, so her falling for Jojo is even more insulting and unbelievable. And it's not just that the characters fundamentally aren't believable, none of their dialogue is. Blossom can go 2 seconds without hating her dad, Buttercup is incapable of saying anything that isn't shit like, it's compulsory heterosexuality, whatever the fuck that means, and Bubbles is just incapable of saying a normal fucking sentence. No one talks about what their dad is like in bed. That's just gross. And finally, in this first episode, the writers immediately demolish any notion of stakes or consequences. Blossom's trauma for Mojo's death completely undone when it's revealed at the end that Mojo is somehow still alive in the body of Jojo's monkey, which is also dumb as Bubbles constantly being arrested for her alcoholism and mistreatment of animals at zoos, never held accountable. Buttercup literally being a predator for bi-curious women, seen as a good thing. The main antagonist creating a plot to cause anarchy in his own city, blame it on the Powerpuff Girls and Professor, and be seen as a hero by cleaning up the mess the city doesn't know he made, immediately forgiven a few pages later with an "I'm sorry about falsely accusing your dad of mass terrorism." If this was the actual script for the pilot, I am so happy they scrapped it and delayed its release. Maybe this time they can get their shit together and turn this train wreck around and come up with something actually good that doesn't feel the need to take a fat shit on the source material whenever they get the chance, especially when the source material is far superior. I watched the first episode of the original and immediately fell in love with the girls, the professor, and the mayor. I read this script and I wanted to blow my brains out. Maybe I'll make a follow-up video when the show comes out. We'll see. Until then, this is your captain speaking, and I hope to see you next time.